Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I come before you to urge you to support to help fix our current democracy crisis with the very low voter turnout we've seen recently. That's why I've reintroduced AB 400, which will allow for Election Day reminders to be displayed on our state's existing changeable message signs. In addition, the bill will allow for a reminder to potential voters about the last day to register to vote. These messages will not be displayed in times of an emergency to public safety, but certainly voter participation has been dramatically low in recent elections. Last year we had an 18.3 voter turnout in the statewide primary election. That's the lowest turnout since 1946. In addition, 73.3% of eligible voters are registered to vote in California, and we need everyone who is eligible to go register to vote so they can have a say in the future of our great state. We all know the seriousness of California's drought, and the reminder message, serious drought, help save water, that's displayed currently on many of the signs. This sign has helped remind millions of motorists every day that they need to do their part in terms of water conservation. Let's make a cost-effective, efficient, and innovative use of our existing infrastructure to remind voters to also do their part on Election Day and to register to vote. In closing, this bill is intended to help ensure civic participation, that it grows, and remind everyone to take part in the electoral process. I am proud to share that the innovative bill enjoys the support of our Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, nonprofit Vote, and also Mi Familia Vota, California, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that works to increase civic participation, such as voter registration and voter turnout. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this bill, and with me I have some people to speak in support. Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. James Schwab on behalf of Secretary of State Alex Padilla. The Secretary strongly supports AB 400 as it will increase awareness of voting and voter registration. As Assemblymember Alejo alluded to, in 2014 general election, voter turnout among eligible voters was 31%, which ranked 43rd in the U.S. Clearly, we need to do more. Secretary Padilla is committed to improving voter participation. This includes finding new ways of reminding voters of important election information. One of the top reasons for not voting is, I didn't know there was an election, which is hard to believe, but if you ever canvass the neighborhood and talk to voters, you know voters can be unaware of an upcoming election. And even if they are aware of an election coming up, they might not know of the exact date or important deadlines. AB 400 is an important step to help inform eligible voters of important election and voter registration information. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, committee members, and members of the audience. My name is Sergio Lara. I'm the Deputy Director with Mi Familia Vota, a nonprofit organization working to unite Latino community and its allies to promote social and economic justice through increased civic participation such as voter registration and getting out the vote. I'm proud to share that Mi Familia Vota supports AB 400, the Reminder to Vote Act authored by Assemblymember Luis Alejo, and urge your support for this innovative effort to increase voter turnout and voter registration participation with reminders placed on the changeable message signs that usually have information about traffic or amber alert. And I appreciate seeing those messages to keep me informed about what's important to me as a driver. And for the past few months now, I've seen new messages on our state roadways that say serious drought, help save water, which helps remind me as a consumer in California that I need to do my part to help with the drought with our water supply. Well, given the horrible record low of 18.3% voter turnout in California's primary election last year, and not to mention the very low 26.4% voter turnout in my home county of Stanislaus, I feel California voters need to be reminded of what they can do to help our state deal with the new crisis we are facing, which is a drought in our democracy. My job is to help get people registered to vote and remind them to go out and vote. And AB 400 will help remind people to fulfill their civic duty by registering to vote so they can then have their say with their vote on Election Day. I urge you all to vote in support of this bill. Thank you.
Next speaker. Is that it? Any other members of the public like to testify in support of this bill? Any members of the public that would like to speak in opposition of the bill? Mr. Alejo, are you willing to take the amendments made by the committee?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I accept all the amendments.
Thank you, sir.
proposed by the
Any
committee.
members of the committee have any questions? Mr. Sajian.
Mr. Alejo, I was able to support this in the past, and I'll do so again. My concern, I remember the drought, but I looked into that. I know that the governor had to call the federal agency to get an authorization because the digital signs we get funding from the feds. By doing this, are we jeopardizing anything, or have you looked into that?
I don't think we're jeopardizing anything, but if there's any legalities that we need to work through, we'll certainly look into trying to provide greater clarity as the bill proceeds to the floor.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, and I'm glad that priorities go to emergencies if there was a need to publicize prior to reminding everybody that it's your duty to vote.
Absolutely. We'll circle in when we get some clarity on that issue. Back with you, Mr.
Thank you.
Atajian.
Mr. Medina.
I just want to thank the author for bringing the bill forward and commend him. I think anything we can do to help increase the voter turnout, we need to do. And also want to thank Mi Familia Vota for all the work they do in civic engagement. So I'll be supporting the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Medina.
Ms. Baker.
Thank you. I also will be supporting the bill, and I have to tell you, I wasn't expecting to originally because I felt that we are going to be diluting the purpose of the signs, which is for public safety and traffic-related messages. But I applaud my colleague for focusing on how we can increase voter registration, voter turnout, and take you at your word that we will work on ensuring that this is not going to jeopardize our federal funding. And that we aren't going to use this to become very paternalistic in giving every message we possibly can to drivers that at any given day may be considered a priority. I think we need to practice restraint in that regard. But I will support your bill, take you at your word, and I thank you for bringing it forward.
And that's our commitment, and also that's why we narrowed it only to general elections cycles.
Any other questions of the author? Seeing none. Mr. Alejo, would you like to close?
Just appreciate your staff's work on this bill, Mr. Chairman, and your support in providing greater clarity and improving the bill. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Alejo. I'm generally not a fan of extra signs in the highway right-of-way, but for this one, I'm gladly going to make an exception due to this public service that it provides. And we used changeable message signs last year to inform the public of emergency situations with a drought, and we use them for Amber Alerts and other situations. I fear the lack of public participation in elections is an emergency on at least the same scale, and this is why I'm supporting your bill. But should anyone get the wrong idea, I do not intend to encourage broader use of these signs in the future. And so I'm looking forward to your successful venture with this passage of this bill.
So we won't be reading the happy birthday sign when your birthday is up?
We'll do it in committee. So there's nothing there that limits it to just the general election. Are you taking that as an amendment also?
Well, let's.
We're not asking that.
We'll work with the committee if we need to do that for the next step.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chairman.
willingness.
Appreciate it.
Madam Secretary, with that, we'll open up the roll for a vote.
Mr. Chair, I do just one question, and I appreciate the narrowing down to general elections, but typically voter participation where we see numbers and small margins is on off-year elections, and so I would believe that the intention of getting greater voter participation would be for all elections in California, and so I would definitely love to see us work towards the goal of making sure that if the announcement is going to be made, that we're making the announcement, as long as it doesn't impede on the blue alerts, but that we are making sure that we're getting the message out off-year and general elections. I think that's really what the intent of the bill, I would imagine, is shooting for, greater participation for all elections in California.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. So we'll work forward with that, Mr. Alejo, and moving forward and with further clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But the intended purpose right now is as defined in the bill, and I look forward to you being successful.
Okay.
Madam Secretary will open the roll for vote.
The motion is a due pass as amended to the Committee on Appropriations. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian. Ashajian, aye. Baker. Baker, aye. Bloom. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim.
No.
Kim, no. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Melendez, no. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
That bill is out. We'll leave the roll open for any absent members.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it, members.
So I'd like to pass the gavel over to my Vice Chair, Mr. Sajian, to take over the meeting while I present my own bills.
Mr. Fraser, you may proceed, sir, as you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. AB 198 is a common sense measure that will provide law enforcement officers responding to traffic incidents with the flexibility to rapidly remove disabled vehicles and reduce traffic delays. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Fraser, your witnesses in support of the bill?
We do have an instrument.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Brooks Ellison on behalf of the California Tow Truck Association in support.
Thank you. Others? Members in the public in support of the bill, please come forward, identify yourselves, and speak your mind.
Sean Rundle with the California Peace Officers Association in support.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Corey Salzello on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in support of the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Seeing none, anyone in opposition of the bill, please come forward. Seeing none, bring it back to my colleagues. Questions, answers, statements? Seeing none, Mr. Fraser, your closing remarks, sir?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
With that, we have motion has been moved by Mr. Nazarian and seconded by Mr. Linder. Secretary will call the roll, please.
The motion is a due pass. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker. Baker, aye. Bloom. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia.
Aye.
Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Linder. Linder, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you very
File
much.
item 7, Mr. Fraser. Go on, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. AB 235 requires that a provisional driver's license remain in effect until the driver reaches the age of 18. Under California current graduated driver's licensing requirements, a minor who is at least 16 may be granted a provisional driver's license, which remains in effect for 1 year. GDL is a system designed to protect young novice drivers by giving them more time to gain driving experience prior to full licensure. One of the key safety elements of the GDL is that the minors with a provisional license are prohibited from driving during the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., or from transporting passengers who are under the age of 20. In 1995, prior to the widespread introduction of GDL in the U.S., drivers aged 16 to 17 had a fatal crash involvement rate of 37 per 100,000 population. In 2010, it is clear that the GDL has been effective in reducing young novice drivers' crash rates and associated injuries and premature death to themselves and others. However, there remains a significant teenage driver safety problem, and additional work is needed to further reduce the deaths and injuries for this vulnerable population. Motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death for teenagers in the United States, accounting for nearly a third of all deaths of 16 through 19-year-olds. In addition, teenage drivers have the highest rate of involvement in crashes that result in the death of other people, such as passengers, pedestrians, or drivers and passengers in other vehicles. From 2000 to 2009, 81,000 people have been killed in crashes involving teen drivers, a number equivalent to over 540 airplane crashes. AB 235 is a reasonable measure that will help save lives by ensuring that all minors who drive must operate under these safety restrictions. This bill is sponsored by the Allstate Insurance Company, and testifying on behalf of Allstate is Theo Pathos of my friend here, of Allstate Insurance Company.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Witnesses.
members, Theo
Please.
Pejos representing Allstate Company. This is actually an extension of efforts that were first played out on the federal level, where we got together with a number of the safety organizations, our colleagues in the insurance industry, including the auto clubs, and we took a look at all of the model GDL laws across the country. What we found is while California was better than most of them, there were still some gaps for 17-year-olds. For instance, did you know that a 17-year-old driver is 40% more likely to get into an accident after 11 o'clock than any other time in the day? Or, for instance, that they are 4 times more likely to get in an accident if there is more than one minor in their car. So what we did is we found that California law was lacking for that age group, namely the 17-year-olds. So this is our second attempt and a bill that left this committee unanimously last year to strengthen the GDL laws by taking the current provisional driver's license law, which is in effect for 1 year after you're licensed, and extend that until such time as you're 18 years old. So in other words, if someone got their driver's license at 16 and a half, they would have the provisional until they're 17 and a half. Normally, if this bill passes, it gets signed by the governor, that person would have an extra 6 months of provisional driving. If someone was really on the ball, which I don't think is the case as much as it was when we were younger, if someone gets their license at 16 years old, under current law, they'd have their provisional until they're 17, and they'd be fully licensed after that. This bill would say, up until the time you're 18 years old, it's a very clean, it's a very efficient change, we believe in law. In the law, you have to comply with the current provisional driver's license restrictions. We think it's modest. We think the data shows that this will save lives. We think it's wise at this time to apply it to the population that currently doesn't have these restrictions up until the time they're 18, and we ask for your support and thank the Assemblyman for introducing this very important bill.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, Tim Chang with the Auto Club of Southern California. The Auto Club was an original sponsor of the GDL law here in California back in 1997, and we supported this effort last time Mr. Frazier brought it forth, and we continue to support this effort because it does strengthen the two most effective elements of GDL, which are the nighttime driving restriction and the passenger restrictions. We know those work, and we applaud Mr. Frazier for bringing this bill forward again. Thank you.
Next witness, please.
Mr. Chair and members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association, again here in support of the bill.
Other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, bring it back to my colleagues for questions. And Ms. Melendez?
I'm really torn on this bill, to be perfectly honest with you. I understand why you want to do it. Being the mother of a 16-year-old who did get his driver's license literally 2 weeks after he turned 16, I am struggling with, I'm not seeing any data in here that says, and maybe you could speak to that, that suggests that when I was getting my driver's license at 16, and we could have as many kids as we could fit into the car, and there were no restrictions really other than your local curfews that were put in place. You know, are there more accidents or less accidents now? Because I think in general, people of that age are inexperienced drivers, right? Then add alcohol into the situation, then add cell phones into the situation. That creates more accidents, not necessarily because of their age, but because of the activity in the car.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, a couple of points. Those are very good questions. Number one, as you increase the number of minor passengers in the vehicle, the chances of a fatal accident are much higher. I believe it's fourfold, but I could get that data to you, and we do have a study for that. Secondly, as you add those, an increasing number of minors, those riskier behaviors, they just increase. I think that, I know you're a mother of many, I don't remember how many, but several, many more than I have. And you can attest to the fact that you include more kids, and these riskier behaviors do tend to increase. Just a couple of things that might help with your decision-making process. Number one, this is secondary enforcement. So no one's going to get pulled over for a alleged violation of this transportation code, vehicle code, excuse me. It's just if you're already being cited for something else. Secondly, there's a whole host of exemptions in current law. In other words, if you're driving a sibling, or if you're driving to school, or if you're driving to a school event, or if you're driving to a doctor's office, or you're driving to work or a work event. Essentially, anytime the parent puts a note in the glove compartment of the car that says it's okay for my provisional drivers to drive under these circumstances, they're fine. So just to throw that out there.
Okay, thank you. That does answer my questions. I would like that information. I am going to stay off the bill for today because I do need to dig a little deeper into my district about how they feel about this. And you are well aware of the negative impact that you're having on the dating lives of these teenagers, right? Okay, just making sure. And I thank you for that, but I'm going to stay off the bill.
Mr. Medina?
Yeah, as a teacher, high school teacher for 20 years, who unfortunately, year after year, saw teenagers and high school students get killed from accidents behind the wheel, and one time multiple people die graduation. I thank the author for bringing this forward.
Chairman Fraser, is this so if a parent rides, they're driving at midnight with a parent, that's okay?
Yeah, you're totally clear once the parent's in the car.
As a parent of 5, I always told my kids there's nothing good that can happen after 11 p.m., so I'm going to support the bill.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, just are there any insurance coverage changes, implications to changing of this law?
That's a good question. Always a difficult one for us. Insurance costs follow experience, so to the extent that claims would be reduced, costs would be reduced. But the way the insurance world works, that happens after the experience shows. The reason why we're supporting it is we'd assume that would, of course, be the outcome of this change in law. But we can't assign a discount to it, so to speak, until the experience comes in.
But they will still be covered, though, correct?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right.
I think the policy is till you turn 19. If you don't have tickets, you get a discount.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
For a youngster, the first discount you get when you get to be age 19 and you haven't had any tickets, it applies. Anyone else? Mr. Fraser, thank you. Mr. Nazarian.
I'm sorry, I've been mulling this over just today. I was coming in and support, and I'm still going to support. My only question is, would you be willing to insert some kind of language that'll offer some kind of reprieve to young adults who may be forced to be looking to take care of their younger siblings or foster care? There are certain circumstances where certain youth might be forced to be in a position of doing something, offering to help other family members, and so they'll be struggling with this.
That amendment should be in place now, but we'd be happy to sit down and cover any scenario that might not currently be covered. But again, a note from the parent in the glove box. We're told by CHP Works or a guardian, and it doesn't apply to emancipated minors, by the way.
It all requires a permission from parent. Mr. Fraser, thank you. Like Mr. Medina, I used to be work with local high school. We have a program that says every 15 minutes when one of the students taken out. It's very touching, and this will ease up the pain for the parents. They don't have to explain themselves, blame it on the law or on Mr. Fraser. With that, your closing remarks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a father who had lost a child in a car accident, I want every parent to have the opportunity for that child to come home. The other thing is that your other family members that would have possibly been hit by this inexperienced driver also have the opportunity to come home also. And so I want to limit the club that I'm in as a father who lost a child, and anything that I can do in my quest for safety on the highways, I'm all in. So I would appreciate your aye vote from the committee moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will entertain a motion. Moved by Mr. Dodge, seconded by Mr. Nazarian. Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker. Baker, aye. Bloom. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim.
Aye.
Kim, aye. Linder. Linder, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
So at this time, we'll go to add-ons and take a vote in order.
File item 1, A.B. Gatto. The motion is a due pass to public safety. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. File item 4, AB 198. The motion is a due pass. Bloom. File item 5, AB 210. The motion is a due pass to appropriations. Bloom. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. File item 9, AB 400. The motion is a due pass as amended to appropriations. Bloom. File item 13, ACR 14. The motion is a due pass to appropriations. Daly. Daly, aye. On the consent calendar, Daly. Daly, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Medina. Medina, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye.
So we're going to go ahead and leave the roll open for about 5 minutes so those members that have missed this call. So I'll be here for another 5.